Yes, people, how we doing? I will start talking because these lives do record straight away and get uploaded as soon as it's finished. So I'm just in my podcast room. I need to turn that heating back on because it is a bit chilly up here in the gym. So I'm in my gym. I've been up since 5 o'clock this morning. It's now 10 o'clock. Done my 6 a.m. circuit, had me breakfast, done me work, had a sunbed, done me morning rituals, which is all of that, and coming on to do a live. But I will wait a moment because there's no one in yet. Obviously, no one knew I was going live on here. So we'll see what's happening. But right, just checking to see if I've got all my settings properly on there. Share with your audience. Here we go, as people coming in. 2 seconds, because I'm just... Two seconds, people. I'm just sharing this live around to get a few more people in. The Joker, morning. T4 lovers, how you doing? Jade. No name. So, there seconds. I'm just checking to see that I've got JD down as my moderator. But yes, I was talking about, because I normally do my lives on YouTube. Get me words mixed up. I normally do my lives on TikTok. But this morning, when I was doing my live, and I was well into it, there was a few hundred people watching and listening, interacting. But unfortunately, it got cut short, and I've been suspended from my lives until tomorrow. But the reason why I've been suspended on my live is because I was talking about my friends, talking about my reasons about going back to prison, and talking about them, that I've got them in my book, the ones that I'll best be careful on here as well in case the same thing happens. But 3 of my best friends committed, and that word, obviously they took their own lives, but because I used that word S, it flagged up and just cut the live short, and I've been suspended, believe it or not. But I was actually talking a little bit about a motivation talk, talking about when I ended up back in prison, because 2 of my best friends and my wife's auntie done away with themselves. They done that, and it messed me up. I found my best friend. I tried to bring him back to life, cut him down and everything, and I couldn't bring him back. That's what messed me up, and that was what ultimately made me, or not made me, but had a big part in me going back to prison. Because after I found my friend, my mental health deteriorated. I was drinking a lot, getting off my head, taking other substances to cope with it. Then my other best friend killed himself. Then my wife's auntie did. So I experienced 3 in a matter of 2 years, 2.5 years. And like I've just mentioned, my mental health deteriorated. I ended up back in prison. But I wrote my book whilst I was in prison during lockdown, which is Behind the Bars, Ruthless Fitness. And if you don't want to buy it, click on the link in the description or go to the About section on here. You can get my book from Amazon, which is the quickest place, or WH Smith's and Waterstone. So I wrote my book whilst back in prison. And when I got out, obviously I edited my book, wrote it, got it uploaded and everything, got it published worldwide. It's helped a lot of people. I'm now here in my gym. I've got my own gym, which is Ruthless Fitness. And I've done a lot for charity, for that S charity. I'll try saying it on here. Suicide Prevention Charity. Hopefully it doesn't flag up. But that there, Tough Mudder, which I'd done a couple of years ago, I've raised over £5,000 for charity as I've done Tough Mudder. I've done the Great North Run. I've done 2 charity boxing fights. And like I've just mentioned, raised over £5,000 for that charity, doing good stuff. But prison, for me, actually worked. And the reason why I was talking about it, because I was talking about when you end up in prison, you either go one way or the other. It either makes you or breaks you. It makes you, if you use it constructively, get into fitness, do courses whilst you're in there to better yourself both physically and mentally, then, or you can go down the other route, taking spice and subbies, getting off your head all the time, which is not going to do anything apart from fuck you up. Then when you get released, you're going to have these habits, and it's just going to be the same old vicious circle. But if you put your time to good use, like I did, wrote my book whilst I was in there, then you can come out and live your best life. Do good things out here in the community. And I've never had a drink in 18 weeks. All the things that I can think of in my past that I've ended up there, where I've ended up back in prison or ended up in trouble, it all comes down to alcohol. I've done it whilst I've been intoxicated, and I do daft things whilst I'm intoxicated. So when I got off my license, finally free from the IPP, but my plan was, or me and my wife were saying at the beginning of this year, if I get off license this year, we'll go to a hotel, we'll get pissed out our heads to celebrate being free. But the more we got closer to the time knowing that I was going to be off my license, we both decided that that is not the best idea. Everything that's ever happened, like I've just said, everything bad has always been in drink. So if you get to my age, I'm nearly 40 next year. If you get to this age and you still haven't realised and still not acted on it, then you're a fucking idiot. So that's what I said to myself. If you don't stop now, you're never going to fucking stop. Celebrate by being off license, by getting pissed out your head, doing daft stuff with no license. What's going to happen? You're going to end up back in prison or back in bad situations. So for me, the best thing to do is not drink. Right, I'll have a look, see what people saying. Like Natasha says, drink is the devil. Hit that like button, people. There's only 12 likes on it. But yes, drink is the devil. And if you haven't realised it, like a lot of people, week after week, especially living in the areas where I'm still living in the same neighbourhood or the same area that I've always lived in since I was a kid, which is a rough place. Stanley, I'm going to do a video on it actually. Stanley was in the Chronicle last week for being one of the roughest towns in Britain. I'm going to do a video going up and down the front street, walking around, do a little talk, pointing places out about this area that I live in, this rundown area that I still live in, and it's the norm to drink on the weekends and get off your heads. Even people that work, the majority is on the door that do it, but the people that go to work as well, they work all week, get to the weekend, and their idea of having fun is getting off their heads, off their heads on sniff and drink, rough as dogs until the Wednesday, pull themselves round, fresh on a Thursday, back at it on a Friday. Now what life is that? I've done the fuck of myself when I was younger, so I'm not coming on here preaching, but what I am saying is, when you get to that stage in your life, when you look at it and you think, you've wasted all them years doing the same old shit, waiting for the weekend to get off your heads. When you get to this age, 40-year-old, it's time to realise like that's not living the life. That's living a fucking nightmare. Being depressed as fuck because of what you've done to yourself. And then comes to the Friday, you feel fresh again, but then you do it all over again. It's just an ongoing vicious cycle. So like Natasha says there, same here in Durham. Rough as sandpaper, most people. It is like you've got to get these people when you look on Facebook, they're twisting constantly, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, back at it Friday. So Jade says, I fell pregnant at 16 and stopped it all there and then. Well done to you. Well done for stopping it, because like you say, a lot of people don't. Even the lasses in the area, they do it throughout the pregnancy. They might stop, but then as soon as they have the baby, they're saying to themselves, I'm going to celebrate by getting the baby looked after and then going out on the piss and getting off their heads. But then they go back to the bin and they can't be arsed because the fucking heads are mashed of being out on a session. So Popsky there says, sober for 6 months. Well done. It's been 18 weeks for me now. I've only had about a handful of drinks this year anyway. But even them handful of drinks, my head was mashed afterwards. And for me, it's hard enough dealing with life on a straight head, dealing with your different emotions and that, without putting stuff in the mix and having to deal with everything else. Because you blow things out of proportion when you're hungover or when you're at a session, your head's in bits, you're fucking full of anxiety, full of depression, blow things out of proportion, act in a different manner that you would normally when you're sober. So, but again, it's all in my book, Behind the Bars Ruthless Fitness, all talking about physical and mental fitness training, how to get yourself in a better mindset. But I can't remember if I mentioned it on this live. The other live that I was talking about when I was looking into prison news about different things that's popped up on the prison news app. A prisoner has just, wait, not on purpose, but he's accidentally burnt himself to death inside of his pad. He's been getting a light off the sockets whilst he's been on the spice to smoking a pipe. And he's had himself a big massive choker of a pipe. And he must have leaned on the socket where he's been getting the lighter from. And his clothes have set on fire. And because he's out of it on the spice, monged out, his clothes have set on fire. He's burnt to bits inside of the pad. And obviously the smoke alarms and everything's went off. But by the time they've getting him out, getting him to hospital, he's been pronounced dead. Burned to a crisp. Went up in a puff of smoke on his spice pipe. Sad, sad story. But like I was saying before on the other live, a lot of people inside a prison, to get them through the prison, they've got a dark sense of humour inside a prison. So there would have been a lot of jokes going around the wing about his death. But that's just what happens inside a jail. You get through it by having a dark sense of humour. Like I was just having a little bit of a banter there. Obviously, it's not nice. The man's in jail. I think he was in for 5 years for burglary. And he's ended up burnt to a crisp inside the pad because he was smoking the spice. Right, what's the members saying here? Can prisoners watch your videos? There's quite a lot of prisoners who've got, obviously, mobiles, watch me videos. They're not supposed to, obviously. But there is a lot of not a lot, but there is a small percent of me viewers and subscribers still inside a prison. And yes, they do watch them because they have sent us messages and they have commented saying, keep up the good work with your channel. They love watching it, even from inside. So yes, the prisoners are watching us on my channel. So, cheers to Spices Naughty, never tried it. Watch people in South Stanley off the faces. I wouldn't want to look like that. Definitely not, but a lot of people right inside a jail, a lot of bad things have happened to them whilst they've been under the influence of spice. Because when they smoke it in there, they're just buckled over on the beds. Everything just seizes up. They go into a mad position and they cannot move. But there has been lads inside a jail that have been violated whilst they've been in or under the influence of spice. When they can't react, they're monged over on the bed, they can't move. It's like they've had a big dose of fucking ketamine or something. They're monged on the bed, cannot move, making daft noises. And people have done things to them whilst they've been off their heads. There was a one up in Northumberland where someone went over on the spice. I don't know if it wasn't his padmate because there's no padmates up there. But he actually pulled his pants down and done things to him from behind, the fucking sick bastard. But I best watch me language on here as well because it will get flagged up, which has been happening with me videos. So I am going to be calming it down a bit, not being so verbal, but I've noticed the viewers are liking it when I'm a bit more verbal and a bit more boisterous in me videos. It's just a bit of banter, gets the viewers watching, and obviously if anyone's new to the channel, they'll think, who the fuck's this? Who's having a bit of a laugh here? But as you can imagine, me videos, some of the views are getting up to the hundreds of thousands, and it's all to do with the bacons getting bashed inside of prison. Everyone's loving the bacon bashes on the channel. So I did have a little bit of a laugh saying I should rename the channel Bacon Bashes. But what I'm actually going to do is create a playlist section and put it up as saying, call it Bacon Bashes, all the bacons that have been bashed inside. I will create a playlist for the IPPs as well, because I'm doing a lot more talk on the IPPs inside of jail, the ones that are forgotten about, the ones that are trapped, and more so Joe Outlaw, Pepsi Watson, and there is another prisoner, I can't remember his name. They've been in years over tariff, which is an absolute liberty. I was going to swear there, but I need to pipe down on me swearing on here because it gets flagged up. And that's why I say Bacons and not give them the proper term, because if you use the term what rhymes with hairy ape, prison slang for apist is a hairy apist equals, or you get me drift. But it flags up and it won't show, and you do get strikes for talking about them sort of subjects or talking about them words. So that's why I refer to them as hairies or bacons. Sure, that's the reason why. But like I mentioned, a lot of the videos that are getting massive views is all to do with the bacons getting bashed. Now, there's the bacon just being bashed. I put a short video on the other day. Reynard Sinaga, who's just been, when I was actually in the summer, he has been done for 136 hairies on men. Wasn't just gay men either, it was straight men. He was going into clubs, taking them back to his little apartment or his flat and giving them GHB, then harrying them whilst they were unconscious. And a lot of them didn't even know it had happened to them until, because he was recording some of them, and obviously the coppers went to the victims and told them what had happened, and they didn't even know. But this horrible bacon, this hairy, had been doing it for 10 years. He was an Indonesian born who come over here, and he got life with a minimum of 40 years, but he was swaggering around the wings in HMP Wakefield, thinking he's a bit of a fucking boyo. And obviously a couple of the other prisoners didn't like it. I'm not sure what they were in for, but they might not have been, because Wakefield is the whole of the jail is mixed. Most of them are VPs, bacons, but you do get the prisoners that get put in there that aren't bacons, and these are the ones that are attacking the bacons. Now, this bacon got the hiding of his life whilst in there, and the screws intervened and saved his life. But they've just been done, and that's why it's only just coming to news now, and it's just been in the news. But he was branded the UK's worst S offender, obviously because he was doing it, or how many he'd actually done. 136 different hairies he's been done for. The horrible piece of and there is a picture in the papers where his face is all battered and bruised, because one of his victims was a teenage lad, I believe. I think he was around about 18. And he actually came round whilst this horrible piece of was on top of him doing his dirty deeds whilst he'd given the GHB. He was in the middle of full-on SA to this 18-year-old lad, and he's came around. Obviously the GHB has wore off, and he's turned around and given him a fucking beating of his life. And I think this is how he's actually been caught, because he must have went to the police. Obviously he's went to hospital, been battered and bruised. The young lad luckily had woke up and took his own justice out on him, and I'm not sure if he's went to the coppers afterwards, tell them what had happened. Then they've looked into it and seen that he'd been recording different things, what he'd been doing, and he got done for 136 hairies on men. Imagine what them men felt like, being violated like that. And it doesn't matter if they were gay or not. Some of them were straight, but he's took them back. A lot of them were vulnerable, and he's tried to say, like, come back to mine, somewhere to sleep, and he's give them that and done the most wickedest and dirtiest things to them whilst they were intoxicated and drugged up of what he'd give them, the horrible piece of shit. So Jade says some screws will let the general lads know if there's a bacon. Yes, that's actually true. A lot of them go unnoticed because they do. Some of them come on a main location and try to go unnoticed. But obviously the screws know exactly what everyone's in for, and they will. Normally it's the top lads on the wing. The screws will go up and say, do you realise what he's in for? Then they'll give them the heads up. Then they'll get the prison justice, and they normally get a kettle or chucked over them, or in the high securities, a pan of hot oil, and they normally get a Mars bar. Sometimes they get a double Mars bar, which is 2 stripes down the face. And the reason why you get a double Mars bar and a Mars bar is prison slang for scar. Mars bar rhymes with scar, same as the Harries, why they've got the nicknames. But normally if you see someone with a big old scar down the face in jail, they're a wrong'un. They're either a grass or a bacon or something like that, because you don't get a big nasty slice like that for no reason. Now the double Mars bar, double stripe down there is so that they can't get stitched up or glued up, or they've got to get glued up. But imagine if you've got 2 stripes and they try to stitch that one, it pulls the other one open, so they leave the nastiest marks. I've seen a lad in Franklin with a big one down his face, and it looked like he had, the scar was like he had another finger on his face because he'd had a double stripe. Like I say, most of them that's got the stripes or bacons or grasses, prison justice, that's what happens inside a jail. Yeah, so John says, never broke the law, sober, 60 this year, 19, what's that? 19 years, IPP, out soon, frightened of future. Never broke the law, sober, 60 this year. 19 years IPP, out soon, frightened of future. I think what he's trying to say is he's never broke the law up until he got the IPP. He must be sitting inside watching this, I believe. 19 years IPP, out soon, frightened of the future. Well, if you are obviously watching this in your IPP and you're still inside, you want to be careful on your blower, because if you get caught, you're not going to be released, are you? But if you've been in for 19 years and you're out soon, obviously, if you're out soon, you must know you've had a hearing or you've got one coming up. And you're, oh shit, 2 seconds, because I knocked that off by mistake. And you're out soon. So you're best off keeping your head down when you get out. If you've been in for 19 years, you're going to find it hard to adjust when you get out. But if you keep your head down, just get on with probation as best as you can. I know there can be twats probation, they were with me. But if you just go in there, smile when you go in, keep a straight face, keep off the drink and the drugs, keep yourself fresh, get yourself into the gym, go into probation, do what's asked of you, do your 3 years. See, if you've never been released, you've got to do 3 years before you're eligible to have your license terminated. If it's not terminated, then you've got to do another 2 years. Then it will be automatically terminated. But if you've been in 19 years, I'm sure 3 years of keeping your head down out here, it will be terminated. Everything that's happening with the IPPs, if you keep your head down for 3 years, your IPP will be terminated, because the parole board want as many people off them as possible out here in the community. If you're getting out here, that's the hardest part. You're no longer deemed a danger to the public if you're now out here. So get out here, do your 3 years, then you're laughing. If you've been in jail for 19 years, 3 years on the out is going to be a breeze for you. Like I've mentioned, it's going to be hard for you to adjust. But get out here and just get on with your fucking life and put it behind you. It is possible, believe you me. Because the IPPs, a lot of them have been in for 19 years, 17, 18, 19 years on a short tariff where they should have only done, some of them 6 months, 12 months, 18 months. 18 years later, they're still in. How is that justified? And that's what I'm talking about more on my channel, to get it in the public domain and let more people know about it. And if you haven't already seen the video that I've done on Joe Outlaw, go back and have a look and see that video there where I'm talking about him, because I'm arranging a peaceful protest on the 3rd of February 2025 outside of Newcastle Crown Court for Joe outlaw because he has been done with escaping from Franklin prison when he didn't actually escape. He got up on the roof, but they're trying to make an example of him, even though they've already made a big enough example of him. He's been in for 13 years on a 4.5-year tariff. But they want his last bit of blood. They want everything out of him. Even though they've already took his fucking soul, they want him to be charged with escaping so he can get another sentence on top of his IPP. So I'm setting up a peaceful protest to help with his conviction. Hopefully he doesn't get convicted or found guilty by the jury, because I don't believe he deserves to be found guilty. He was up on the roof. That is not escaping. Escaping is getting over the wall. But because he's made a mockery of them, he was actually in the segregation unit, getting out for half an hour a day exercise. The segregation unit's got a cage on top of it, so you can't get out. So I don't know how he's managed to get out, but he's managed to get up on the roof, and he's made a mockery of the prison by doing that, because everyone, all the local papers were involved, the Chronicle, the Northern Echo, it was all over the news, and he made a mockery of them. Now they want to make a mockery of him even further by getting him done with escaping from a high security prison, which carries a hefty sentence. But he didn't even get past the fucking roof on reception. They've got big fences, then they've got big walls. There's no way you're getting out of there unless you've got helicopter support. So Christina Evans says, Australia respects you. Thank you very much. So Durham says, you know my pal Daniel McDowell from Newcastle. He was in Franklin, and Jack Ryan and Jess Ryan. The name doesn't ring a bell, Daniel McDowell. I mean, I've met hundreds of fucking prisoners along the way, and even people I know out here in my local area, when they come into me, sign into me gym, I can't remember the names. 39-year-old, I've got a fucking memory of a 60-year-old. No, I think I've got that much going on, that many different faces to remember. I've got hundreds of members in my gym. I've met hundreds of prisoners. I research hundreds of prisoners to do stories on them. And there's that much up there going on. You see someone, you think, I can't remember your name. Or it could be all the years of abuse when I was younger as well. Paul Thrower, how you doing? Jane Cooney says, could you give my son advice, please? If you're local to the area, I could give him some advice. Or if you're going to me channel, me Facebook rather, drop us a message. But I am setting up a day here in my gym for kids who are at risk of prison and at risk of getting into trouble. I'm going to call it a challenging behaviour day, because I have done a lot of stuff with the kids previously, and leading up to my IPP getting terminated, I was actually going into a school, talking with the kids about prison, giving them a bit of inspiration. And Natasha says your sound keeps cutting off. Let us know if it's fine there now. So I have went into school talking with kids, giving them a bit of inspiration, letting them know the real side of prison, not these parties that people talk about in prison, that where they don't give a shite about prison, and they think that it's a playground for criminals, which it can be if you want it to be, but who wants that? You're best off talking to the youth and giving them a bit of advice about what will happen or what it's like inside a prison, rather than glamorizing it and bigging it up. So on the 1st of February, I'm setting up a day in my gym. It's going to be after closing hours, so when my gym shuts, the kids are welcome to come in who are at risk of getting into trouble, at risk of prison. The parents are welcome. I'm going to bring someone along who's done a lot of time inside of prison, who's a reformed character, ex-gangster, to do a talk with the kids as well. I'm also going to talk with them myself. So if there anyone is watching who's local to the area, get in touch or bring them up. Keep an eye out on my Facebook page, The Ruthless Fitness one. I will be uploading everything on there and sharing it on my main page, but I will share the post on my community page on here as well. So keep an eye out if you want your kids to listen to a bit of motivation or a bit of advice rather than motivation, because I'd rather see advice, giving them a bit of advice about what actually goes on and what prison is all about and what to do with your life, rather than getting into trouble and creating nothing but shit for your future. Because even the criminals, the gangsters, the big lads who watch me channel as well will agree with us that you wouldn't want your kids doing what you've done, getting into trouble, harming people, harming yourself, harming themselves rather, harming us in the process. Who wants that for the kids? Who wants the kids to go to prison, have to go on a visit and see your kid on a visit, looking at them and think, I could have prevented this, or I could have done something to stop them going to jail? Like I've mentioned, even the big gangsters that are still involved in crime now don't want to see them for the kids, or the decent ones, may I add, because you do get the muppets that want their kids to be the same as them. But who wants that for the kids? But even here, I've just read Dave Gunn, where I've read a bit of Dave Gunn's book, The Bestwood Boss. In his opening chapter, he actually talks about reform and talking about kids, and he gives a good sentence on the front of it saying, get yourselves a fucking proper education, a proper job, and do it the proper way. Not like us muppets that have spent years in prison. But I am going to be getting Dave Gunn on my channel for an interview. So I might do a little talk about his book first, then get him on for a podcast. I've been in touch with Dave, and he is coming on my channel to do a podcast in the new year. So keep an eye out, people. I will be doing more podcast interviews with guests, and not guests that are going to brag about jail, guests that are going to talk about or give a bit of advice to the youth, because that's what our aim is, to be honest. We want to be educating the youngsters to keep out of prison. So T4 says, I've been in 7 times, just don't need my boys doing the same. Like I've mentioned, who wants their kids to be doing the same as what we've done? Just turning that heater off because it's getting a bit warm in here now. But I'm going to be wrapping up in about 5 minutes, people. So if there is any more questions, fire away on the live. So Bomber Burleson says, I'm 54, I'm too old for prison. It's a young man's game. I've been clean from drugs and alcohol now for 8 years. Well done, mate. Never too late, is it? Obviously, 54. It was 46-year-old before he's given up. 8 years clean, well done. It's a long time for someone who's actually used them in the past. So, well done. So Jane Cooney says, you're not a muppet, you're helping. Yeah, well, what I was on about is when I mentioned that, I said, like, there is muppets out here who want their kids to follow in their footsteps and take the name of the next big gangster. But who wants to be a gangster and a boy and sit in jail away from your loved ones, your family, when you could have been out here having the best life, living your life, going on holidays, making an honest living? Because when I've been in there with lads before who were doing 10, 12, 15 years for drugs and robberies and stuff, they'll turn around and say to you, know what it is, I wish I had a normal job. Imagine the money you could have made legitimately in the 10 years you've been in prison. But you've wasted 10 years of your life in jail, and you come out with out. And when you come out, you need to do it again to make a bit of money. But if you went and done it legitimately after 10 years, you would make a lot of money in 10 years working and making yourself an honest living. Because you can make $1,000 a week out here on an honest job if you get yourself a good trade. So $1,000 a week over 10 years, how much does that add up to? Well, yet you're going out committing crime, risking getting 20 years in prison to make maybe $100,000. Well, you could have made $100,000 in the bank over 10 years if you had yourself a decent job. So Christina says, you should be proud of how far you have come. Well done, brother. I'd imagine it's Christina, but when you say well done, brother, it sounds like it's a lad. I'm sure I've seen you comment before, you're using your lass's or your sister's account, I'm not sure. So, Charmian Tomlinson says, well done for using your past experience for motivating help keep youngins away from going down that road. Mickey says, legal money is always better than illegal money and cannot be taken from you. Yes, and then you've got all the shit that comes with you. Obviously, it's easy. It can be easy money, or people think it's easy money, but when you're out committing crimes, it's all the stuff that comes with it. You're waking up in a bad mood. You're waking up thinking about people that owe you money or what you've got to do to get that money back or things like that. And you're just constantly in a fucking negative mindset, which is no good for nobody. So Sean Barry says exactly that. I've only done a little sentences in comparison to you, but what people don't realise is how much you miss your kids. I cry myself to sleep many times after putting the phone down to my babies. And a real man who's in prison, who's got kids on the outside, misses them and will do things to stop yourself from going back in there. When I was back in on my recall, first time I was able to do my IPP when I'd done 5.5 years, I wasn't serious with my partner and we didn't have kids. When I got out, we got married and had 4 kids. And I got recalled after 9.5 years. And after 9.5, after being out for all that time, and then being recalled and having 4 young kids, there were 2, 3, 7, and 8. And my 2 youngest, the 2 and 3-year-old, didn't or couldn't understand where I was at. The mom told them, my wife told them that I was at work. And then when I was speaking to them on a phone on a night time, they were saying to me, Dad, when you're coming home, because I was on a life license recall, I didn't know when I was getting released. I could have been in there for 10 years if I didn't behave myself. And then that was the hardest for me. When my kids were saying, Dad, when you're coming home, I couldn't tell them. This went on for a year. It was a fucking absolute nightmare. But it changes you and it stops you from going back if you're a wise man. So Messy Steve says, no amount of crime is worth going to prison for. Great videos on your channel. Keep up the hard work. Thank you very much, pal. Right, I'm going to wrap up, people, because I've been on nearly 40 minutes and I was on my other live on TikTok for about 10-15 minutes before I got knocked off and got suspended on my live for talking about people or talking about my friends who took their own lives. But anyways, people, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. I will be doing more lives before Christmas, so keep an eye out. But enjoy the rest of your week and stay safe if you're going out for Christmas parties, getting off your heads on the devil's dandruff. Keep away from it if possible. But if not, watch what you're doing and be careful because you will end up in prison. So I'm knocking that one off, people. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your day. If I can see how to end it. There it is.